In a dramatic return to the global stage, President Donald Trump is set to address the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, virtually marking a significant moment just days after his inauguration. This engagement comes amidst a flurry of activity in the Trump administration, including potential Senate votes on key cabinet nominees and ongoing fallout from his controversial pardons related to the January 6 Capitol attack. Trump's speech at the World Economic Forum is highly anticipated as it represents his first major address to an international audience since reclaiming the presidency. With a theme of collaboration for the intelligent age, the forum has attracted over 3,000 leaders from various sectors. Trump is expected to touch upon pressing global issues including the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, international trade relations, and the rise of artificial intelligence. His remarks are particularly crucial as they may set the tone for his administration's foreign policy direction and economic strategy. In tandem with this international engagement, Trump's domestic agenda continues to unfold. Reports indicate that the Senate could vote today on multiple cabinet nominees, including John Ratcliffe for CIA Director and Pete Hegseth for Defense Secretary. This swift movement reflects Trump's commitment to solidifying his administration amid ongoing scrutiny and criticism, particularly surrounding his recent actions regarding immigration and pardons. One of the most contentious topics is Trump's decision to pardon individuals involved in the January 6 insurrection. Critics have labeled these pardons as a troubling precedent, suggesting they undermine the rule of law and send a message that political violence may carry no consequences. In a recent Fox News interview, Trump defended these actions, framing them as a response to what he described as a politically motivated persecution he faced during his previous term. "I went through 4 years of hell, it's really hard to say that they shouldn't have to go through it also," he stated, alluding to the legal challenges he faced. This narrative of victimization resonates with segments of his base but raises alarms among legal experts and political analysts. Trump's approach to immigration also remains a focal point, with reports indicating that he plans to authorize various agencies to carry out deportations, further intensifying the already heated debate over his administration's policies. Meanwhile, Trump's call with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman signals a potential reshaping of U.S.-Middle East relations as they discussed regional stability and economic ambitions. This call underscores Trump's preference for direct engagement with foreign leaders, reminiscent of his previous term. The response to Trump's administration is already reverberating beyond U.S. borders. European leaders have expressed caution regarding Trump's tariff threats, which could reignite trade tensions reminiscent of his earlier presidency. The World Trade Organization has warned that such actions could have catastrophic consequences for global economic stability. As Trump prepares to take the stage in Davos, the world is watching closely, eager to hear how he intends to reconcile his America First policies with the broader international community's interests. The implications of his speech could set a new course for U.S. foreign policy and global economic relations, especially in the context of the ongoing geopolitical tensions stemming from the Ukraine conflict. In conclusion, Trump's return to the global spotlight is marked by a complex interplay of domestic policy initiatives, controversial pardons, and a renewed emphasis on international engagement. As he navigates these challenges, the reactions from both domestic and international audiences will likely shape the trajectory of his administration in the months to come. The outcomes of his policies and speeches at forums like Davos will be pivotal in determining not only his legacy but also the future of U.S. relations with the world. In an era defined by geopolitical tension and social discord, two significant events involving former President Donald Trump have recently surfaced, shedding light on his confrontational stance toward Russia and his contentious interactions with faith leaders. As Trump threatens new economic sanctions against Russia while simultaneously engaging in a public spat with Bishop Marianne Budde over matters of mercy and immigration. These developments reveal the complexities of his approach to governance and the contentious landscape of American society. In a bold move signaling his intent to confront Russian President Vladimir Putin, Trump recently took to Truth Social to announce potential economic sanctions against Russia, declaring Putin has finally met his match. This statement comes amid alarming reports regarding the state of the Russian economy, which, according to research from the Yale Chief Executive Leadership Institute, is on the brink of collapse. The analysis indicates that Putin's regime may run out of cash by the end of the year if stronger sanctions are imposed. Putin has been obfuscating how weak the Russian economy is, the report states, noting that crucial economic data has been withheld, obscuring the challenges facing the nation. The economic turmoil in Russia is compounded by rampant inflation, which has reached levels reminiscent of Weimar Germany. Basic necessities are becoming increasingly unaffordable for the average Russian citizen, with food inflation soaring as high as 30% in some categories. This painful reality is exacerbated by exorbitant interest rates, which have crippled lending and led to the exodus of over 1,000 multinational firms from Russia. The overarching message from Trump's remarks is clear: by cutting off Russia's windfall oil profits, he believes he can force Putin to the negotiating table. On a different front, during an inaugural prayer service at Washington National Cathedral, Bishop Marianne Budde made headlines by addressing Trump directly in her sermon. She implored him to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now, specifically highlighting the plight of LGBTQ youth and immigrants. Budde's remarks came on the heels of Trump's executive orders that many viewed as discriminatory, including a directive that restricted federal recognition to only 2 genders. In the immediate aftermath of her sermon, Trump took to social media to dismiss Budde as a so-called bishop and accused her of being a radical left hardline Trump hater. The backlash against Budde was swift, with some Republican lawmakers suggesting her statements amounted to a call for her removal from her position. Yet Budde remained steadfast, asserting that her intention was to foster a respectful dialogue and advocate for those marginalized by Trump's policies. These two events, while distinct, underscore the broader themes of power, authority, and the societal divides that characterize contemporary America. Trump's confrontational approach toward both foreign adversaries and domestic critics reveals a leader unafraid to wield his influence in contentious ways. The dynamics at play also highlight an ongoing struggle within American Christianity, as voices like Budde strive to articulate a different vision of faith that emphasizes compassion and inclusivity. As these narratives unfold, they point to a future fraught with both challenges and opportunities for dialogue. The stakes are high as the international community watches closely how Trump navigates his renewed presidency amid economic threats to adversaries like Russia. Domestically, the clash between traditional religious authority and progressive values continues to spark debates that will shape the moral landscape of the nation. Ultimately, the interactions between Trump, his critics, and the broader public will be pivotal in determining the trajectory of American politics in the coming years. In a decisive move signaling a clear shift in national security strategy, President Donald Trump's administration has sent home approximately 160 National Security Council (NSC) aides, aligning the team more closely with his administration's agenda. This action, which comes at a time of complex global challenges, raises questions about the future direction of U.S. foreign policy and national security operations. The announcement was made by Brian McCormick, the Chief of Staff to National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, during a brief call with the affected staff members. They were informed that while they would still be available to the NSC's senior directors, their physical presence at the White House was no longer required. According to a recording of the call obtained by the Associated Press, McCormick emphasized the honor of serving in the White House but also underlined the president's right to assemble a team that reflects his policy priorities. Every president is entitled to have a staff and the advisors that they need to implement the goals that the American people elected him to pursue, he stated. This decision to sideline a significant number of career civil servants who had been detailed from various agencies is particularly noteworthy given the complex foreign policy landscape the U.S. currently faces, including tensions in Ukraine and ongoing conflicts in the Middle East. Experts fear that the removal of these non-political staffers could stifle dissent and reduce the diversity of viewpoints within the NSC, potentially undermining the Council's ability to provide balanced and informed advice to the President. In the lead-up to this development, Waltz had signaled his intention to replace holdover civil servants from the Biden administration with personnel who are 100% aligned with Trump's objectives. This restructuring aligns with Trump's broader strategy to implement an America First agenda, which has been a hallmark of his political brand. As part of this strategy, the administration is reportedly looking to streamline the NSC, making it more efficient and flatter, though specific details on the number of personnel changes have not been disclosed. The implications of this shift extend beyond immediate staffing changes. The affected staff members, who are often subject matter experts in areas such as counterterrorism and global climate policy, will likely find their roles diminished during the ongoing review process. Some have already had their White House email accounts disabled, indicating a swift transition away from their positions. Meanwhile, incoming officials have begun probing the political affiliations and past actions of career civil servants, raising concerns about the politicization of national security roles. Waltz's comments suggest a desire to ensure that the NSC is populated by individuals who are dedicated to advancing Trump's policies and vision. It is entirely appropriate for Mr. Waltz to ensure NSC personnel are committed to implementing President Trump's America First agenda, said NSC spokesperson Brian Hughes, further solidifying the administration's focus on loyalty and alignment with the president's directives. Historically, the NSC has been a body characterized by continuity, with many experts remaining in their roles across different administrations regardless of party affiliation. This approach has fostered a culture of bipartisan cooperation and expertise. However, the current administration's moves are reminiscent of Trump's earlier tenure, during which he faced significant opposition from within the ranks of career officials, notably during the whistleblower incident related to his dealings with Ukraine. As the Trump administration embarks on this new phase, the implications for U.S. foreign policy and national security remain to be seen. The administration's approach suggests a departure from established norms, potentially altering the traditional dynamics of the NSC and its role in advising the president. As new personnel are brought in and old ones are sidelined, the effectiveness of U.S. national security strategy could hinge on the balance of expertise and loyalty. Looking ahead, the decisions made in the coming weeks will undoubtedly shape the administration's approach to pressing global challenges. With the NSC undergoing a significant transformation, all eyes will be on how this newly configured team navigates complex international relationships and security threats, particularly in light of Trump's ambitious and often controversial policy agenda. As the world grapples with the implications of Donald Trump's return to the presidency, experts convened at the 2025 annual meeting of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, have begun to unpack the potential ramifications of his second term, with a blend of anticipation and trepidation. Panelists discussed a range of issues from climate policy to international trade and the seismic shifts these could induce in global geopolitics. In a session held shortly after Trump was sworn in as the 47th president, participants noted that the global reaction to his return spans from excitement to fear. Trump wasted no time in enacting a series of executive orders that align with his campaign promises, addressing contentious subjects including immigration, climate change, and social diversity. However, these ambitious policy shifts are already facing legal challenges and fierce opposition, underscoring the divisive nature of his administration's agenda. Allison Schrager, a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute for Policy Research, emphasized the notion of a vibe shift in global politics, suggesting that Trump's presidency signals a significant departure from the established post-war economic order. "Something new and strange is happening," remarked Graham Allison. Douglas Dillon, professor of government at the Harvard Kennedy School, highlighting the discontent with the previous political class that propelled Trump back to power. The panelists expressed concerns about Trump's economic strategies, particularly regarding his proposed tariffs on imports, which could complicate his domestic agenda aimed at alleviating inflation and lowering the cost of living. While specifics of his tariff program remain vague, the prospect of a renewed trade war with China looms large, with some predicting the reintroduction of hefty tariffs reminiscent of his first term. Ian Bremmer, president of the Eurasia Group, cautioned that the complexities of US-China relations could escalate, stating, "Getting to a deal with China will require a level of execution or implementation that's far more complicated." As Trump's administration seeks to re-establish its footing on the global stage, the outcome of its dealings with China will be a focal point for observers. On the international front, some experts believe Trump may attempt to mediate the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, potentially leveraging relations with China to navigate a resolution. Graham Allison predicted that a deal could emerge within 6 months, contingent on cooperation from key international players. Conversely, the panelists were less optimistic about the prospects for lasting peace in the Middle East, citing recent developments as insufficient to create a stable framework for resolution. Domestically, Trump's commitment to reducing economic pressures, particularly inflation, presents a paradox. While he aims to cut costs for consumers, his tariff policies may inadvertently raise prices. Schrager suggested that the U.S. might be entering a new equilibrium for inflation, potentially stabilizing between 2.5% and 3%, which would pose challenges for government borrowing costs. Moreover, the political landscape remains starkly polarized, with Bremmer asserting that Trump's leadership style deviates significantly from traditional presidential norms. He noted, "It's a very unusual time to have an individual that is in no way concerned or constrained by the rule of law." This sentiment echoes broader concerns about the potential erosion of democratic norms during Trump's administration. As Trump continues to unveil his policies, the implications for both the U.S. and the global community will unfold. The panelists concurred that his second term marks the beginning of a transformative era in global politics, one characterized by rapid change and unpredictability. With technology driving shifts in public expectations and policy responses, the coming months will be critical in shaping not only the future of U.S. governance but also the dynamics of international relations in an increasingly interconnected world. In conclusion, as the dust settles from Trump's re-inauguration, the world watches closely. The actions taken in the coming months will not only define his second term but could also set the stage for a new chapter in global governance with implications that resonate far beyond the borders of the United States. In a significant reshuffling of national security staff, the Trump administration has sidelined approximately 160 National Security Council (NSC) aides, a move aimed at realigning the council's personnel with the former president's agenda. This decision, communicated during an all-staff call on January 22, 2025, comes as President Trump embarks on his second term amidst complex global challenges, including ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East. The affected staff members, known as detailees, are career civil servants from various government agencies, including the State Department, the FBI, and the CIA. They had been temporarily assigned to the NSC, which plays a crucial role in advising the president on national security and foreign policy matters. Brian McCormick, Chief of Staff to National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, informed the detailees of their new status, indicating they would remain on call but would not be required to report to the White House, effectively sending them home. As anyone who has had the privilege of working here in the White House knows, it's a tremendous honor to support the executive office of the president and the presidency itself, McCormick stated during the call. He emphasized that every president deserves a team aligned with their objectives, reiterating the administration's commitment to an America First agenda. This reshuffling is particularly notable given the backdrop of Trump's previous administration, during which whistleblowers within the NSC raised significant concerns about presidential conduct, leading to his first impeachment. The sidelining of these career experts may not only affect the continuity of expertise within the NSC but could also create an environment where new policy advisors feel less empowered to voice dissent or raise concerns. Waltz, who signaled his intent to review personnel before Inauguration Day, aims to create a more efficient, flatter NSC. He has already initiated the transition of holdover detailees back to their home agencies, with some being informed of their reassignment as recently as last week. This strategic move is intended to ensure the council is predominantly staffed by individuals who support Trump's goals and policies. In a related development, the Trump administration is in the process of appointing new leadership within the Department of Defense (DoD). Robert Salesses has been named acting Secretary of Defense following Trump's nomination of Pete Hegseth for the position, alongside other acting service secretaries. This restructuring within the DoD combined with the NSC's personnel changes illustrates a broader effort by the Trump administration to reshape the federal workforce in a manner that corresponds with its political ideology. As the administration undertakes these sweeping changes, questions arise regarding the potential impacts on national security policy and the operational effectiveness of these key agencies. The incoming officials have reportedly begun questioning career civil servants about their political affiliations and past contributions, further emphasizing the administration's focus on loyalty and alignment with its objectives. Looking ahead, the ramifications of these personnel changes will likely unfold amidst a backdrop of pressing global issues. With the NSC now facing a potential knowledge gap as experienced detailees are sent home, the administration's ability to navigate complex international landscapes remains in question. As the Senate prepares to confirm new leadership within the DoD, the implications of these changes on U.S. defense and foreign policy will be closely monitored, particularly as they relate to ongoing military and diplomatic challenges. In the unfolding landscape of U.S. diplomacy under the renewed Trump administration, the stakes are high as the former president embarks on a mission to reshape American foreign relations. With Marco Rubio recently installed as Secretary of State, the administration is poised for a dramatic shift characterized by a rejection of the previous administration's policies and a lean towards a more unilateral and assertive approach. This strategy is not without its complexities as it aims to reconcile traditional diplomatic practices with the unconventional methods that define Trump's first term. Michael Walsh, a visiting researcher at Georgetown University, emphasizes that the Biden administration and the 118th Congress missed a critical opportunity to modernize the U.S. Foreign Affairs Manual (FAM) within the realm of diplomatic organization. He argues that Trump's administration should prioritize an urgent reassessment of the FAM's conceptual framework, particularly concerning the organization of U.S. diplomatic posts. Walsh highlights that many key concepts within the manual remain undefined, rendering the State Department ill-equipped to navigate contemporary geopolitical realities. Continuing with the outdated model will leave the Department of State struggling to align its operations with the current external environment, Walsh asserts. He suggests that the Trump administration should demand a revised model that is more accurate and responsive to the changing diplomatic landscape. The inclusion of concepts such as virtual embassies, which have gained traction in recent years, exemplifies the need for updates. For instance, the virtual embassy established for Iran remains undefined in the FAM, illustrating a disconnect between evolving diplomatic practices and formal policy. Simultaneously, Trump's approach to diplomacy continues to be heavily influenced by social media. In recent developments, Trump utilized Twitter to exert pressure on Hamas regarding hostage negotiations, a tactic reminiscent of his first term. His threats of severe repercussions if hostages were not released illustrate a reliance on hardball diplomacy that prioritizes direct communication over traditional bureaucratic channels. David Livingstone, a former Australian diplomat, notes that Trump's unfiltered communication style imposes a unique accountability on foreign leaders, making them acutely aware of the consequences of their actions. This methodology raises questions about the effectiveness and ethics of such an approach. Critics argue that Trump's cavalier attitude towards diplomacy could lead to strained relationships with allies and adversaries alike. However, his supporters assert that this style of negotiation has the potential to yield results, especially when traditional diplomatic frameworks have failed to produce tangible outcomes. As the Trump administration settles into its new term, it faces pressing global challenges, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region, where rising tensions with China are a focal point. Rubio's first day in office saw him convening discussions with counterparts from key Asian nations, emphasizing the need for a robust strategy to counter China's influence. However, the abrupt halt to foreign aid disbursements initiated by an executive order from Trump raises concerns about the immediate humanitarian impacts of this policy shift. Critics warn that this could destabilize regions already experiencing crises. Furthermore, the administration's pivot towards subnational diplomacy, particularly through local leaders and mayors, aims to create a network of grassroots relationships that can bolster U.S. interests abroad. Lacey Beatty and Neil H. Simon argue that effective diplomacy in the current climate requires looking beyond traditional federal channels, suggesting that local actors can forge essential connections that transcend partisan divides. Looking ahead, the Trump administration's strategy is set against a backdrop of necessity and uncertainty. As it seeks to redefine America's diplomatic posture, the balance between assertiveness and cooperation will be crucial. The administration must navigate complex global interdependencies while fostering relationships that can withstand the pressures of domestic and international politics. The coming months will reveal whether this new approach can stabilize U.S. standing in an increasingly multipolar world or if it will exacerbate existing tensions. The world is watching closely as Trump 2.0 attempts to chart a course through uncharted diplomatic waters.